In November 2014, Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development set aside the first Saturday in every month to embark on national sanitation and cleanup exercises aimed at keeping the environment clean. But 5 months down the line, some environmentalists argue that the monies used on national sanitation and cleanup exercises will yield no dividend unless law enforcement agencies enforce sanitation bylaws.
I support we clean, everyone's going to clean. But when you clean, and the moment you clean and somebody is also littering, what do you achieve? It's just that you are using basket to fetch water. Assemblies, the local government, the Ministry of Environment, they should make sure that the polluter pays. Who is the polluter? If I drop something on the floor, I am the polluter, and I should be arrested to pay. But if we say that somebody can throw anything anywhere and then everybody should go and clean, I think we are not fair to the good citizens of this country. Fine, let the law work. And I think if we don't do that, forget it.
They argued for the arrest and prosecution of offenders as a deterrent.
We should clean it one day. Everybody will go and join. That is patriotism. But if I clean and you allow somebody to just throw it anywhere you want, he can throw it away and go. Other jurisdiction, when you are caught, maybe you'll be given a street to sweep for the whole month. And if this thing is done, this thing will stop. It will stop completely.
My guest in the studio this morning is Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekpo. He is a legal practitioner, and he will educate us some more on the sanitation laws in this country. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Right, so we're talking, looking at sanitation issues in the country, especially the laws governing it. So when it comes to sanitation, what exactly does it entail? What does the law say? Or do we have laws governing it at all?
Certainly we have laws governing sanitation practices in this country. So it's not as though the law do not exist. The law does exist, and it's about the implementation. That is the issue. So I'll simply put it like that.
So there are laws. What exactly does the law say?
Yes. For instance, if you look at what comes to mind quickly, will be Section 2961 of the Criminal Offences Act. Act 29, 1960. It's an offense for any person to litter around, to drop litter haphazardly. It's an offense. You could be prosecuted. It becomes a criminal offense for you to do that.
Okay.
You know, so for starters, that is where we have to go. So if a person is found littering, dropping litter or debris haphazardly around, that particular section says you are guilty of the offense of haphazard littering,
okay,
and therefore you could be prosecuted.
Okay, so what kind of punishment would this offense attract?
It depends on the nature of the littering. If it's a major one.
When we say major, what do you mean? Like a bucketfuls, a huge drums of litter? What exactly?
The law does not specify, but it is the particular nature of the offense or the occurrence. Is it
a matter that the product that you're dropping? Is it the quantity or what exactly?
Yeah. So if I say major, it could mean the quantity, the amount of litter that the person must have dumped in an inappropriate place.
Okay.
So that will determine whether or not the court will only fine you, or will only find will impose a nominal fine, or impose a punitive fine.
Okay, when we say nominal fine, what does that mean?
That would be, for instance, the equivalence of one penalty unit now is 12 cedis. And so if the court wants to impose a nominal fine, the court will say you pay 10 penalty units.
Okay, so that would be 12 multiplied by 10.
That is so. So that would be about 120 cedis. That would be nominal.
Okay.
In this case.
Could it be more?
Yes.
Up to about?
Given the nature of the offense. So each offense will turn on the peculiarity of the facts.
The circumstances. Maybe even maybe even the location of where you drop the debris.
So for instance, if you are seen dropping debris in front of the Flagstaff house, you are likely to be in big trouble.
Okay, what about the punitive punishment?
Yeah, the punitive, that is what I'm saying, it becomes punitive. We use punitive when the imposition of the fine is supposed to serve as a deterrent.
Okay.
In fact, the nominal one is also supposed to serve as a deterrent.
But it's not.
But the circumstances could be that immediately you were caught dropping the litter. You took steps to remedy the situation.
Maybe pick it up.
So you refetched.
Okay.
You took back the debris.
Can you be imprisoned for littering?
Yes, depending on the nature of the offense.
So it's a serious offense. It's not a misdemeanor.
For instance, if you are found dropping toxic material in an inappropriate place, which has not been designated by the appropriate district or municipal or metropolitan assembly as a place for dropping litter, then the court could take into consideration the nature of the offense and the steps that you took between the time that you were liable for the offense and the time of prosecution. What steps did you take? Okay. All those things will come into place.
How serious an offense is this? Does it fall under a misdemeanor?
It's a misdemeanor.
It's a misdemeanor. So it's not that serious, but you can still be in prison.
No. Even though it's a misdemeanor, given the nature of the offense, you could be in prison. Okay. Because the law allows the court to impose a fine, sometimes even impose a warning, a fine, or a fine in default of which you go to prison. Or a fine plus imprisonment.
Okay, do we have any idea the number of years you could be in prison for?
No, I do not have the minimum. But the minimum it's a caution.
Okay. Is it very common in our courts? Have you come across any such cases?
Yes,
where
indeed.
people are being prosecuted for littering?
Yes, indeed. There's a court established for that. In Metropolitan Accra, I think I can speak of the Abekan District Magistrate Court, which also is set up for handling sanitation matters.
Okay.
So
it's not just about littering.
No. So it is particularly established to handle environmental and sanitation matters.
Okay.
So it's not about littering. It's about anything that has to do with the pollution of the
open
environment.
Places. All these fall under that.
They all constitute that.
Okay.
So there's a court, the judiciary, yes, that has taken the step to establish a special court to handle. So in fact, it's popularly called the Sanitation Court.
Okay, yes, I know of it, but how often do they prosecute such cases? Because I remember sometime last year, or maybe earlier on this year, we had I think the MCE of is it La Dade Kutopon or somewhere, this lady, and that was when the cholera outbreak had become very rampant, and since she gave us a history of since the courts were set up, and up until that time, the number of cases they had prosecuted, and it wasn't up to 4. So I'm wondering, how often do such cases get prosecuted?
Let me explain. Under the Local Government Act, I believe Act 462, 1993 as amended. Now, Section 13 of the Act give each and every metropolitan assembly and district assemblies certain functions to perform. Now, as part of these functions, they are enjoined to undertake certain activities that are already predicated on substantive laws. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, when you look at Section 13 of the Local Government Act, as amended in 1993, it tells you that for the assemblies and metropolitan assemblies, they have the authority to enforce sanitation, to enforce good sanitation practices. Now, by this particular section of the Act saying so, the assemblies are therefore being empowered to enforce these laws, particularly Section 2961 of Act 29, the Criminal Offences Act. So, if you have lived in the peripheries of the urban periphery, you will know that there are people they called sanitation officers, commonly called Sama people. Mm-hmm. All right. So, or tankers. So they will come, they will inspect your homes. I think they do it every weekend or every 3 days or so. They go around.
In which areas? The whole country?
Yes.
We have these people going around.
They go around. We call the health officers. In fact, Section 14 empowers the assemblies to have personnel that they call health officers.
Okay.
And there are people, I am telling you, that are commonly called tanker cell people.
And these people are doing this.
They
Actually,
do.
you know for a fact that they're going around doing
I know they do. But the question is, how effective are they? So it's not as if the laws are not there. And it's not as if mechanisms have not been created to ensure that good sanitary practices prevail among us. But the problem is the people who are supposed to do their part of the bargain, are they effective? So for instance, if I enter a house in Mamobi in Accra and I find that an occupant of, say, a house, has engaged in insanitary practices, conditions, and this could be, you see, defecations from the children around. So prima facie, you are supposed to make a case against the person, and you issue what they call summons. You issue summons. Now, mind you, the district assemblies are also empowered to have their own bylaws. So in their bylaws, they have laws that prescribe certain practices concerning the environment. So he will look at the law and he will look at what he has discovered. So if he thinks that on the face of it you are liable, they issue what they call summons for you to appear in court. So if you appear in court and the evidence is that indeed you are liable for that, you are guilty of the offense of certain practices which are considered prescribed under the appropriate sections in the relevant bylaw.
Okay.
Then the said court could convict you.
Okay, so apart from these public health officials, as you've just mentioned, who else is responsible for keeping people in check? For instance, can any ordinary citizen, if you see somebody littering haphazardly, like the law says, can you report them? What is the process? What do you do?
Yes, constitutionally we are mandated to report any person to the appropriate authority when the person is engaged in crime, or is about to be engaged in crime, or he has engaged himself in a crime and is absconding.
Okay, so if I should see somebody littering, what do? I just apprehend them and take them to the nearest police station?
You can.
What exactly do I do?
In this era of IT, you could first of all take a photograph
of the act
as a prima facie evidence, and then you make a case.
And this is admissible in court.
This is admissible. So you rely on it and say that I saw this person doing this. Okay,
but what if it's a complete stranger that you don't know from Adam? So you take a picture. How do you locate them?
That is the difficulty. If the person is a stranger, or the person very often are passenger vehicles. Mm-hmm. They are en route. Maybe that's a bus en route from Cape Coast to Adam, and they make a stopover at La Paz. So
sometimes they don't even ask the bus is moving. They're dropping things out the window.
So one other thing that I ever read about was that somebody saw it and took a photograph
of the vehicle
and its registration number and all that. And after some time, I think subsequently a case was made against the driver, and a heavy penalty was imposed, and they paid before the vehicle was released. I think on their return a case was made, so the vehicle was impounded.
Okay, so it's
possible. When they challenged, then the video was produced. It was a short video, but it was conclusive.
Okay,
that so he did not doubt that it happened, because this was the rear of his bus, his registration number. I believe it was in front of North Jolo, in front of
Okay, so basically as ordinary citizens, we can also help in this fight by reporting such acts when we come across them.
Yes, but quite apart from that, I think the whole thing is about attitude now. if the attitude doesn't change, you travel to other places, and when you come back and you ask yourself, why can't we live like the others do in their country? Because
but you see, the education has been ongoing for a while now. I mean, the campaign for us to be disciplined and not to litter our communities and so on and so forth. And it doesn't look as if there's been any change, like you're saying. It's an attitudinal change. Do you think that is because the laws are not being implemented? That is why people are still, having that attitude. Do you think if we lay the law or we bring the law down hard on people, then our attitudes will change? If there are more prosecutions and, people are convicted or made to pay fines and so on and so forth, maybe even spot fines.
Yes, but let me give you an analogy. If you implement a law and say, for instance, it's an offense to air news in Ghana, for instance, after 10 p.m., it's an offense to air news at all, to broadcast anything. So all TV stations must go off air.
At 10 p.m.
Good. Now, if a station is found broadcasting or airing news after 10 p.m. and nothing happens, the law is there. But a media house is breaking the law and nothing is happening. So it's the simplest analogy I can give you. If the law is there and we are not enforcing the tenets of the law, we'll be in problems. Because if you recall, I think about 5 years ago, when the former Vice President Aliu Mahama,
he was a big champion of
discipline. And it's all about attitudinal change. You could see his drive behind it was a passion. But when he left, that was the end. So the current president is also enthusiastic about the first Saturday of every month being a National Sanitation Day. In any case, it is the duty of the district assemblies to even do that. But he has taken the initiative. So I will urge the assemblies, first of all, to go back and amend their respective bylaws to reflect the dedication of first Saturday of every month as part of their bylaws. Okay. You see, that will be in tandem with the national policy.
Right. Now, I'm glad you brought this up. Yeah. Seeing as this new campaign by the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development to set aside a Saturday every month to clean various communities.
Yes.
Now we have this law on sanitation where it's an offense, a criminal offense for people to litter. If we were actually enforcing these laws, we wouldn't have a dirty community in the first place for us to be told to come out every Saturday or so to clean our various communities. So why don't we lay the law down hard on citizens instead of having to come out or having? Is it even by force? Are we being compelled to come out? Do I have to come out to come and clean my community?
Okay. The sanitation problem has become a developmental problem. It's now moved beyond mere rhetorics. It's a serious developmental problem. So if we have a government that does not display commitment to fighting it in a manner or even a semblance of it.
And the commitment comes right back down to the law that we have, which makes it an offense to litter.
Sandra, you see, people live 24 hours. Or life runs around 24 hours. There are people who work at night. Others go to sleep at night. There are people who sleep during the day and work at night. Now, I saw from the video someone was complaining about the polluter pays principle. Yes, if I pollute, I am supposed to pay. But that is when I am caught. There's a caveat. If you forgot about that, if you are not caught, how do you pay? How are you made to pay? So instead of talking about effective implementation of the law vis-a-vis punishing in a very punitive manner the polluters, there's now a call to arm that because it's now a developmental problem, let us all in the interim fight the menace of cleaning the environment for ensuring a very clean environment for, say, the next year or for, say, the next 2 years. After that,
then we enforce the law.
It's not about then we enforce. You see, it gives you a better platform for effective implementation. Because if the gutters are clean,
what's the point of passing laws if we are not going to enforce or implement them?
Sandra,
and I think that's the problem with this country. Too many laws and not enough.
No. We have sufficient laws, but it is still
enough. We have a lot.
Yes, it is still the implementation, and
that is the problem.
But so Sandra, so what do you do? Because if I am the health officer for Southern District, that's my district in Peki Kweve area, and my duty every morning is to go round, and I don't do it, and yet I have given my salary at the end of the month. I don't think the central government could be held accountable, because I am a public servant. I will be there until I turn 60 if that is where my career focus is. There will be numerous governments that will come and go, but the implementation where I am the executing officer to ensure that good sanitary practices prevail, I am failing. So if I fail, it's not as though the law is failing, but I, the implementing officer, so it means my monitors, my superiors have also failed because they have failed to ensure that I do my duty. Because there should be a way of monitoring my performance, that if I go out to the field, what sort of reports do I bring? Do I go and get compromised? Somebody gives me 10 cedis instead of prosecuting the person and let the person go? Because if these practices are endemic, then the law is there. But to become obtuse, as we say in law.
So you are saying that we should go ahead with these national cleanup
I think it's
campaigns
a good,
for a year or two.
Yes,
and then,
I think it's a good policy call.
And then after that,
and
then what do we do with this law that we have in place?
The law, it's not as if what do you do with the law? The law is already there. It's not been amended.
Right.
And that's the law.
So whilst we are busy cleaning up our communities every month, what's the law doing? We just leave the law dormant?
That is the question you and I should be asking, because you and I, we are not the implementers of the law.
So what would you suggest? What do you suggest?
I would suggest that first, it appears that assemblies do not have this first Saturday of the month as a sanitation day. So they should go back, they should amend the bylaws to reflect same. Then when they do that, then it puts them in a certain position to monitor the sanitary practices of the people within the particular assembly, the district, for every month.